Hey, it's Spencer X. Smith. Hope you had a great Monday. I don't know about you, but I really love Mondays because all the stuff that I think about all weekend when it comes to work and projects and what we can work on with our team, I finally get to unveil those things on Monday. What I want to share with you in this live video today is what I learned by speaking at a conference in Las Vegas last week. And that's one of the things that I love most about speaking at conferences, especially big annual conferences, is there's so many good people there that I get to learn from them after I share some ideas with them from stage. So there are really three ideas I'd like to share with you from these wonderful business operators that I think might benefit you as well. So let's get right to it. The three takeaways that I had that I think might be beneficial for you are these things, what we call CLTV, how, not if, and then the importance of branding. And I'm going to try to monitor comments when I do this live here so we can see if we can make this a little bit more interactive. Now, there is quite a bit of a delay, so if you are watching live, just know that I'll get your thoughts or your comments when we have this actually pop up on the screen. So back to the three lessons that I learned from these operators. This was a storage conference, a self-storage conference. So those who own and operate those self-storages that you see ubiquitously throughout the United States. And at this conference, which was a big conference, there were 2,500 attendees and people from all over that business. So it could be the owners, operators themselves, could be the insurance companies, those who finance them, those who provide the technology for them, and all kinds of other vendors. Now, what I really appreciate about these operators is they were really good at what they did, meaning they not only had done it for a long time and usually on a relatively large scale since they're at an annual conference, but also because they shared their best takeaways from all of the respective sessions that they attended. So it wasn't just in my Q&A where we got this back and forth. It was because I was there for several days and got to interact with them. And after a while, as you know, at conferences, you get to talking about stuff that's outside the scope of what you perhaps have presented on. So that's why I wanted to share these three things with you as well. Without further ado, this first one I think is the most important because oftentimes we don't think about this in business, even though we should. And these operators do a wonderful job of really thinking about this thing. And the CLTV stands for either customer lifetime value or a client lifetime value, as opposed to thinking in terms of a one-off transaction. Like, let's say you rent out umbrellas at the beach, right? Tourists come in and you go, well, it's a sunny day and I might want an umbrella. And you go, well, here's your umbrella rental, and you get your $15 or whatever it costs. That's kind of the life of the transaction. Unless the people keep coming back to the beach, the likelihood of you having them beyond that one-time transaction revenue of $15 is relatively low. But for those of you who are on LinkedIn watching this live, many of you work in B2B, or if you work in B2C, right, business to consumer, you have a longer lifespan with a lot of your customers. And that might be in the restaurant business, it might be in something where it's a SaaS business, which is sometimes B2B, sometimes B2C. But the idea behind it is ultimately figuring out what is a customer worth or what is a client worth to you and your business. And that's oftentimes when we talk about sales or marketing, we look at it in a very short-sighted capacity, right? We say, the customer gave us X amount of dollars. We took off our cost of goods sold if we're selling them in some kind of physical product, or we just take off our whatever our operating expenses are, and then we have our margin, and that's what the client is worth to us, or that's what the customer is worth to us. But what these operators understood really well is the hard part is getting somebody to rent a storage unit from you. And then after they rent a storage unit from you, the likelihood of them staying over time gets greater and greater. Now, you may think about self-storage specifically and say, well, that's just the thing that people use when they run out of space in their home, or maybe they're going to move into a new home or move from one location to another, and it's just going to be a temporary thing. But what these operators told me is that many people now, once they have that storage unit, once they see that as the extension of their home, they don't ever go back. They just always use that thing. So they understand better than anybody I've talked to in business thus far, at least, what CLTV really is, what customer or client lifetime value is. And they understand acquisition is the hard part. Getting somebody as a customer or a client is the hard part. Them over time is worth a lot more than them on a one-time transaction. And I think many of you would relate to that. So whether you're in financial services or legal or insurance or you finance planes or whatever it might be, you know that if you just have a one-off transaction with people, it's not worth that much. It could be worth some, like you have a large commission or something, but where the money really starts to come in and benefit you personally as well as your company personally from having a relationship with somebody is on that ongoing monthly basis or some kind of recurring basis. Because if you think about it, there's really only 3 ways to grow your business. The first is new customers and new clients, and that's the hardest one, right? The second is frequency, meaning instead of somebody buying from you 4 times per year, as an example, they buy from you 6 times per year. That's the second way, is frequency. And the third way is breadth. So instead of you just selling one thing to them, they buy 3 things from you. So instead of this silo, they start to spread out like that. And that's why you see many, many companies now try to collect as much information as they can from you on that upfront sale, because they want to find out, well, what else are you interested in? Now that you bought this from us, don't you want to buy this and this and this? And that's how all of these niche brands are popping up and getting their toe in the water with one little product or one little service, and then saying, by the way, because you trust us with this thing, can we also do these other things for you as well? So please, when it comes to your own business, don't underestimate customer or client lifetime value, because they're worth a lot more probably than you think. The second thing, which I love from these operators, is they ask how, not if. Now, during my Q&A sessions, where I do about, let's say, 50 speeches per year, the number one question I get during the Q&A is this whole social media thing going to work? Is this digital marketing initiative going to work? Is this going to work? We constantly are asking ourselves if. Right? If. Should we do this? Should we do this? But what they've realized is these operators have seen so much change over time, from things going strictly to direct response marketing, like your ad in a magazine, phone book, etc., to the advent of the internet, to now online ads, to then social media. They go, look, we realize the landscape is constantly changing. So it's not if we should do social media or digital marketing, it's how do we best do it, and how do we share best practices on it. And one of the speeches that I saw from a gentleman who owns and operates a lot of these storage units, he said, look, our cost per click on Google continues to go up over time, and that's something we just have to deal with. We don't suddenly reevaluate, like, oh, is this thing for us? Or we just bury our head in the sand and say, well, this is not applicable to our industry. They go, how can we best adjust to this ever-changing landscape? Because again, they've seen so much disruption in their industry. They're constantly trying to stay ahead of it and constantly evolve. And that's something that oftentimes in stodgier businesses, right, we fear that. We go, well, gosh, why can't things just be the way that they used to be? And they just can't, right? The internet changed everything. Technology constantly evolves, so we just can't say, well, that's not for me. I can simply ignore it. Now, a big thing that I heard from them as well when it comes to how, not if, is if, in fact, right? So not how, but if in fact this whole thing is going to disrupt their entire industry, meaning the internet and meaning peer-to-peer. So example of this would be people now can go on storage unit specific sites, sharing sites. I'm not talking about Craigslist. I'm talking about sites like Airbnb. So instead of you renting a house directly from somebody or an apartment directly from somebody, you can rent storage in their freezer, or storage in one of their bedrooms, or storage in one of their extra garages, etc. And a big tenet there, when I mean if not how in this case, is the likelihood of you actually having access to their stuff. So that's a big legal thing I won't get into, but basically if you have access to somebody else's stuff and you're storing it on their behalf, that's a big issue. So that is one where they did ask that question, if, not how, but for the vast majority of what it is that they were talking about, they go, how do we best respond to that? So please accept that change and try to adapt to it best you can. And the third one is branding, and this is the important of branding. So again, one of the speakers got up, talked about voice, and showed both an Alexa device and a Google Home device, and actually showed a video of himself. We're not really shooting film much anymore. A video of himself asking the Google Home questions about the industry, saying, what is a storage unit? And is there a storage unit near me, etc. And all the computer knows, that's either Google or Alexa, is to return the first result. So what he found is if you ask really generic questions, like, is there a storage unit near me, or is there self-storage near me, or where is there self-storage near me, etc., it's going to return what it thinks you want first. Now, to contrast that, with something like the storage guy, which is in our area, which has built up a considerable brand name, if people say, where is the nearest storage guy location near me? Google or Alexa will tell you the nearest one to you of the storage guy, not just whatever it chooses. So what they talked about, and what we talked about during our session, specifically during the Q&A, is the importance of specific branding. Not saying that you have storage units or any of this kind of stuff that people typically think when it comes to SEO, right? When it comes to, hey, I want to rank first for storage near me, it's really trying to get your brand out there. And it's saying our brand embodies this, like quality climate control or big turn lanes, so semis can come in if they're moving furniture, or big stuff as an example. So that's the thing, if you could focus specifically on branding, that could benefit you over time as things move to voice, and there's really not a first page anymore, there's just the first result. And that's where specifically they talked about the value of branding, because it's really difficult, right, to assess what your brand's worth. But over time, you know that you can start to charge a premium because people are asking for you and what it is that you offer in your brand specifically. Now, let me know what you think about these ideas, if you could. Client lifetime value, specifically, how, not if, and then thirdly, brand. What do you think? What I learned from these operators about these three things, I think will last a long time, at least with me personally, because I've seen these folks do their business a long time and adapt to change long term. But tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think that these operators are right? Is it really about client or customer lifetime value and asking how, not if? And is it ultimately really about brand more than anything else? Thanks for tuning in. Hope you had a great Monday, and I look forward to seeing you on LinkedIn Live again soon. Thanks for tuning in. See ya. Bye.